Aloha, this is Clint Hansen with Maui Luxury Real Estate, and this is Maui Real Estate Radio, broadcasting on the KAOI Radio Group, 1110 AM, 98.7 FM on the KAOI. Wait, I said that. Today we have mayoral and Mayor Mike Victorino on to talk about some of his upcoming election talking points, as well as discussing where he sees Maui currently and where he'd like to see us go into the future. So we have a few questions with our ongoing questionnaires of our upcoming politicians. And first, I want to start out with thanking Byron Yap, my co-host. I really appreciate with Axia Home Loans coming out and discussing this with us. You want to introduce yourself, Byron? Oh, he's on mute there.
Byron Yap with Axia Home Loans. It's good to be here. It's always fun to talk with our local politicians so the people can understand and, make a good decision based on, some conversations we have with them.
All right. And of course, our man of the hour, Mike Victorino. I wanted to say thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do with Maui. And that being said, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and what makes you think that you're fit for helping continue Maui's traditions?
Mahalo for that question. And my name is Michael Victorino. I was born and raised on Hawaii Island. Spent many of my summers here with my maternal grandparents. My mom was born and raised on Maui, so I spent a lot of summers here. And grew up enjoying the agricultural economy that was Maui at that time, which by the time I returned in 1973 to open up the Zales Jewelry Store in Ka'ahumano Shopping Center, nearly 50 years ago. Maui had changed a lot. The agriculture industry was slowing down or actually closing up, and the hospitality industry was coming into its own. And over the last 45 years, I've watched Maui move from a hospitality industry to an agriculture industry to an hospitality industry. I attended I attended Hilo College, went to the Hawaii Community College, and attended Maui Community College, basically majoring in business administration, marketing, and business law. I met my wife, Joycelyn Nakahashi, and we've been married for 46 years. We have 2 sons, Shane and Mikey, 5 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren.
Wow.
And my extensive background in the business community is working with McDonald's Corporation for almost 12 years, Zales Jewelry Corporation for 7 years, and many other smaller companies. I had my own insurance agency. I have been an insurance agent for 38 years and worked also in the hospitality industry in the security departments of Ka'anapali Ali and the Westin in Ka'anapali. And I did that for nearly 23 years. I was one of those that we wanted things for our children. We worked hard to make sure they were able to get it and, have their education at St. Anthony, which both my sons graduated. My youngest son, obviously everyone knows, is Shane Victorino, who had a pretty stellar career in the baseball world.
Mm-hmm.
Won a World Series with the Philadelphia Phillies and another one with the Boston Red Sox. He's now retired, now raising his children in Las Vegas. My oldest son, Mikey, I'm very proud of him also, a very good athlete, but has taken a different path. He's taken the path of unions, and he is now the Secretary Treasurer for the ILW in the state of Hawaii. So both my children have been very successful. My grandchildren are doing very well, and I pray my great-grandchildren have opportunities, and that's what I'm here for. My grandchildren and great-grandchildren, so that they will be able to live here and raise their families here in Maui Nui. What we are doing is really setting the pace and setting the path for the future of Maui Nui. And I'll get into that with your questions. I'll close with this. 45 years of service to this community, whether it was the fair director, whether it was the Supreme Warden of the Knights of Columbus, whether it was PTA president, you name it, coaching, business manager. I've done it all for this community because I've always felt if you don't give back, your community will diminish and die. And that's one of my ways of saying we all need to continue to help each other make Maui Nui even stronger than ever.
Right.
Yeah, and thank you so much for all that coaching that you've done, and also for coming to the Maui All-Star. My daughter is a Little League All-Star as well. So it was wonderful for you to come there and really support the kids. And, baseball has been a huge part, of course, of your family's history. And it's wonderful to see that continue as well.
Well, I love all sports. And like I mentioned to you earlier, sports is really the essence of life. If you learn that you have to better yourself to make your team better, but it's a team that wins or loses the game. It's not just you, it's everyone that's out on the field. What is baseball, soccer, basketball, whatever it might be. And I think Maui has shown that we've created, we've had a good history of baseball players, some football players, some maybe been playing soccer in the major leagues in the Northwest. And I've had Ty Pertito. He went up to play up in the Northwest and had some success up there. And we've had a few other children that have gone and played soccer throughout the United States and collegiately. So Maui has a good reputation, but education is so important. And I think that's what sports brings, is the holistic part of what life will be about.
I have a question, Mayor, is, you've seen the diversification going from, or not diversification, but going from agriculture to tourism. Now we've got a lot of our eggs in one basket of tourism. What are your plans or thoughts on, diversifying our economy, such as bringing back ag or different things besides tourism? Because a lot of people complain, they say, everything is about tourism. What is your goal or plans or thoughts or visions?
Well, our vision has been one of diversifying our economy. Let me tell you, there's 4 areas that we were looking at. Our hospitality industry will be our #1 industry for decades to come. And we need to learn how to better size it, better manage it, make sure that it's accommodating the needs not only of our visitors, but our residents alike. We cannot inundate and overwhelm our natural resources, such as beaches and other areas like that. They are natural resources. They're not man-made resources. So it's important we protect and enhance them where and when we can. We've seen sea level rise has degraded the beaches on West Maui, for example. And along South Maui, this is happening there too. So dune restorations and other programs, tea groins, we need to look at how we can manage retreat and yet protect the shorelines as best as we can without causing more damage somewhere else. So that's part of the hospitality industry. And the change there also is wellness and health. I've seen that Larry Ellison has started his Sensei program on Lanai. People are going there to get well, to recover from illnesses, even to get their mental health back together. And I think we can be a leading edge on that area here in Maui County, especially Maui Nui. And so we need to continue to work with our professionals in what we can bring in. And where the advantage comes in is we bring in all these wellness programs where they are helping not only the physical health, but the mental approach that we need. Maybe we can reduce the mental illness that we have out there. We can make stronger and more healthy people. And we are getting paid to do that because we're helping those who want to come to Maui to get healthy. And that's something that I'm really proud that we're working on right now with the University of Hawaii, Maui College, putting a CNN program starting from high school on through college, career paths, I call it. And, that's one area. The other area is agriculture and technology in agriculture. Today, the farmer is not one farmer that just goes out and digs a hole, puts a plant in, and plants the crops and walks away, and then fertilizes and waters it. There's a lot more technology, soil renovation, regenerative soil, regenerative agriculture, how to plant crops here and next year plant it somewhere else, and then come back the year after, letting the soil rejuvenate itself. There's a lot of things that technology has taught us, and the equipment they use is all technologically set. I was at Mahipono a couple of times, was able to ride their tractors, and all they do is program it in. They close the door and say, Mayor, don't touch anything, just let it go. And it went. And I tell you, it's a really, really gratifying feeling to plow fields without doing much other than steering it. You don't do anything else. So technology is coming quickly. And, there's another facet of our economy that we don't talk much about is our tech park down in Kihei. There's a lot of developments and continuing developments that We don't talk much about the Air Force wants to come in and build their own building there. That can create 200 to 300 livable wage jobs for our youth here who can get into STEM, our STEM program, our technology programs in high school, going to college, and then getting ready for the real world. So that's the second part of this, or the third part of this rejuvenation of, or our diversification of the economy. Finally, I'm looking at what we can do with the area of technology and vendors and our what we call virtual sales. We found through the pandemic that we had Pop-Up Makeke, Kamaina First, Made in Maui, went all virtual, and in many areas very successful. So we want to continue that, and we want to make it so that we have a broadband, which we're working with the state right now, the federal government, who's bringing in a lot of money to upgrade our broadband system, especially in our rural areas, what we call economically challenged areas. We're going to get millions of dollars to upgrade. Hawaiian Telecom, Spectrum are now working on programs to make sure that we're interconnected all over this county, not just in central Maui, but every place like Kanaio, Kaupo, and Hana, so that we can produce business and never have to leave the island. We don't have to have them come here to try on a shirt. We can sell that shirt virtually. We can sell that piece of jewelry virtually. And that's another way of our economy being more stable and more resilient, because even when there's a downturn in the hospitality industry, we have these other areas where they'll keep coming or keep buying our products.
Thank you. That being said, on the first part of your health and wellness, you mentioned, mental health, and that's actually something that's near and dear to my family's heart. My mom, over a decade ago, volunteered on the Maui Health Board, and put a great effort into getting additional funding on the island to help out the Molokini wing, as well as make sure that there's good policy and policing procedures in place for the mentally ill. And that, of course, segues into a lot of the homeless issues that we have on the island as well. Of course, those are two different issues, but sometimes they overlap because, a fair portion of the homeless population is mentally ill, but a lot less than people would think. Most it's situational. But I've always kind of been an advocate of housing first in order to deal with both these problems, because unless somebody feels secure and safe, it's very difficult to take care of people in that kind of situation. So I'd love to hear, programs and ideas that you have for continuing to help the homeless, and of course, any additional opportunities for funding for the mentally ill of Maui.
Well, okay, that's two questions. So I'm going to take the housing first and then the mentally ill secondly, okay? The mentally challenged. I don't like to say they're always ill. Sometimes it's a challenge that they have. But going to housing, between 2019 and 2021, we were able to build and have occupied over 1,100 units here in Maui County. I'm proud to say that that's probably the most we've done in a 3-year period in a long time. And also there's a lot of what we call market. There was almost 500 market rate homes that were sold also here in Maui Nui. And so I'm proud to say we're building, but not building fast enough. So I'll say it in that manner, right? So we have a couple of programs, public-private partnership, one with the Wailuku Country Town, that's Mike Atherton's project, which will bring us 1,500 units and an additional 500 units from the county that abuts Waiale Extension. So it'll be about 2,000 units in that area when it's all said and done. We expect to break ground this by the end of this year or early next year. I met with Mr. Atherton yesterday. He was on my show, by the way, in Kauai. And he did say that he'd like to get started by the end of this year or early next year. His timeline is set. And what I want to announce too is we finally got the LUC to agree to our partnership. So there's no barriers now in front of us. The LUC had to approve the changes. And that's the one problem we have is many over-regulated systems. You get the land use from the state, you get the Maui Planning Commission, you get the county council. I mean, we have too many layers of bureaucracy, And our planning department sometimes goes crazy with all the changes that people make throughout the project life, right? But with that being said, right now we have 724 units being built right as we talk right now. Yesterday, Wailuko Apartments, as you saw, were dedicated. The unions came in. It's a 100% union-based, union job, and financed almost entirely by the union pension funds. So it's a real collaborative effort by all parties to take care of the people of Maui Nui. Many of them union workers who work for the unions, but more importantly for others who can afford. And 60% of the 328 units will be in the quote affordable rental unit range, I should say. The other 40% will be market. So with all that being said, we have these projects moving very quickly. We have another 600 units that we're looking at right above the Kihei police station in Kihei. We are looking at building a base yard for our public works and our Department of Parks and Recreation, along with preserving the Willy Willy Forest on the far south of the property, and building 20 acres of park and building 675 units in that area. All of them will be in the affordable range. So there'll be rentals and purchase also. Then we go
that's
to
above the Kihei police station?
Yeah, right above Kihei police station. We have that 140 acres above there. And we're finally working on that. Jim Hammond will be presenting that in the next couple of weeks to the county council and to the public so that you can see what's going on. Tonight we have what's his name, Mr. Peter Salvio, that's going to be presenting in Kihei his vision for the 452 units behind Kamali. You know, right behind here we have, and so he has 454 single-family units that he is assured that he can build for $500,000, 3-bedroom homes. So I'm looking forward to seeing what his plan. He presented it to me, and that's on the north side of Kihei. The other side is more on the south side of Kihei. So that's about 1,100 units in Kihei already. We go to West Maui. We have Pulelehua, which has about 450 units. And then we have Hawaiian Homes that's building right next to, which will be about 600 units, 550, I think. So between those two, we nearly have another 1,000 units. And we have the Kiyavi Street Apartments, which we just started construction late in, I think, September, or no, was late. So yeah, I think late September, they broke ground. And if you go down Kiyavi Street, you can see off to your right-hand side as you're driving into Lahaina, the construction area for 200 units in Kiyavi Street. We have also these by Star Noodle, or the old Star Noodle property. There have 89 units that we should be able to move people in the next 2 weeks. These are affordable rentals for the 30 to 80 percentile rental market. So I'm excited that there's a lot happening in West Maui, South Maui, Central Maui, nearly 5,000 units. The only area that I don't have an extensive plan yet with is upcountry, although we have some that they're on the drawing boards right now. We have Kihuni's project in Haile Maile. I think that's 140 units. And so, you know, the pandemic slowed us down, actually almost made it come to a halt as far as new construction was concerned. But we still was put $2.1 billion in permits during 2020 and 2021. Much of that was renovation of hotels and other properties. And one more thing, I'll close with affordable housing. And I covered that really extensively. We just made an offer to buy the Lahaina Wayside apartments. And that's 20 units that we're going to buy there also. So as you can see, our administration is moving very rapidly now. We've got the path set. We've got the plan, the strategic plan to move. The council has put money in the affordable housing. I put 7%. They added another 3%. So we put about 32 million this past year. We had remaining funds. So we have about 60 million in there that can be utilized in all these different projects. And I'm proud to say that it's been a great collaborative effort with developers, nonprofits, as well as the county council. So I want to thank everybody for that. So, so that answers really the housing issue on Maui County, especially Maui Island. We have small projects in Lanai. Ellison is building, I think, 75 units in Lanai City, and the county is hoping with Hawaiian Homes to build another 65 units on the southern land, the southern part of Lanai City within the next 2 years. It's on the books right now, and we're ready to move. Now we just need some permitting issues, right? So housing for workforce, I think we've got a wide array and a wide gamut of housing. Oh, and let me close with one more. I forgot. We have near the Kaului post office, there's the old swap meet grounds, which is a budding. We're going to build 89 units with Catholic Charities, 1 and 2 bedroom units that's going to be built there for workforce housing. So 89 more units there. So that gives you a quick overview. That's the ones that are out there that we all know about. There's about 6 or 7 more projects that are going to be brought out over the next year or year and a half. And I hope that I'm back to make sure it moves along. And that could probably add another 2,500 units to our inventory. And we're hoping that much of this will be done in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, let me go to the homeless issue. With the homeless issue, we have different dynamics, right? One, you said mental health.
Yeah.
Let's leave mental health off to the side right now. Not to say it's not important, but let's leave that off to the side. Let's talk about the working homeless. Those who work, they actually have jobs, but cannot afford rents here in Maui County. Well, that's where we're trying to look at Kahului. Right behind Target, we have 23 acres that we bought from A&B that we want to build about 500 to 700 units of workforce housing right smack in the business area of Kahului. And that's one of the plans we're working on right now. That's conceptual today, but hopefully will be reality within the next 6 months and move through the process so it'll be county-owned land, so we have county control that we'll have a better say. I want to make tiny homes probably in this area, or maybe some that further back, because I'm also looking at buying 200 acres that abut that area that A&B and I are in talks about. So we're just talking stories right now. And I don't want to get too deep into everything because, sometimes you got to, QT. I also have another 165 acres in Kahului that I'm looking to buy so that we can build what we call Dream City 2. And it will be on the main thoroughfare, the main corridor of the transportation system along Punine Avenue, and will be near the Kahului, or what I call the Maui Business Park area. So going to the homeless, I want to build tiny homes for them, to give them an opportunity to get started. Building enough rentals will be also very important. And about 30% or 40% of what I've talked about will be affordable rentals. So of the 5,000 units, about 1,500 to maybe 2,000, somewhere in that area, will be what we call affordable rentals for workforce. 1 and 2 bedroom or 3 bedroom units that people can rent. So we can take care of some of what we call the working homeless. They're working, they're actually productive citizens, but they live out of their car because they cannot afford the rents that are being charged here in Maui County. So we need to build that. But in the meantime, we keep expanding Kahaliakeola. We look to expand Maui Life Center. And also, I have a couple of churches, I'm not at liberty to tell you this, or who they are, but that are now in the process of taking some of those pallet homes that we have at Waiale, the Waiale Baseball Park, and in their properties, they want to put maybe 30 units of that in their property and provide the necessary hygiene stations and other cafeteria facilities, so that working homeless will have someplace decent to sleep in every night and to clean up and eat and all of that within their church grounds. So I'm excited of what we're working towards, but like everything else, we hit roadblocks here and there. Like the one we just did at near the Cameron Center. Well, the council pulled back and now wants to review everything because they don't agree. But I followed all of their commands and all of their desires. I followed it almost to the T, and now they say, no, 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 we don't want it this way. I'm like, wow. So I'm going to tell a secret so everybody hears this. I think I'm going to continue doing it, and I'm going to find money in other areas and do the 200,000 and build that facility for those.
Speaking of finding money to do these kinds of things, one of the things I'm a little surprised when it comes to entitlements and as well as, you know, water, streets, things of that nature. Historically, Kihei was kind of in the middle of nowhere. You know, it was nobody wanted to be there, so developers want to build, and county was like, sure, go ahead if you want to put the sewer and the water and all that in. Now, you know, everywhere else has always been like, you want to issue a bond to put in the water and the roads, and the bond rating is really good. I saw your bond that you issued about 6 months ago, and I think you got it at like under 2%. Do you see more opportunities out there to, you know, really acquire lands and issue bonds to improve those lands so you have more shovel-ready projects? So that, because the burden of the developer spending, you know, 15 to 25 years on putting these things in is just the holding cost alone makes it not worth it to them to make these projects happen. It increases the overall development cost. So
that's a great question, and let me answer it in this manner. We've committed the county to build the infrastructure to the property lines. For example, those two projects I just talked to you about out in Lahaina and Hawaii. We're going to run the sewer line, we're going to run the R1 water line and the regular water line to the property, right? And that way, all of those properties that go along that system will be benefactors of using R1 water. As you're well aware of, I've been an advocate of not pumping into the ground. Yes, I fought it. Yes, I wanted to make sure that the Supreme Court gave us the necessary direction so that we knew what we were going to do and not spend millions of dollars and then be told later, oh, no, that's not what we wanted. So we got clear directions with the 7 points that the Supreme Court said you need to do to end injection wells. So what we've done is we bought that reservoir out in Honokawai. It's a 6 million gallon reservoir. So now we've got the pumping stations that are being finished right now. By early next year, we'll be able to pump 5 million gallons a day up there, then disperse that water across for irrigation and for making green zones so that we have less opportunity of brush fire. Now you in Kihei, we have the same thing we're going to do right above the Kihei treatment plant. We're going to pump some of the, we're going to build with the help of the Haleakala Ranch, some of those R1 water lines and pump stations to go into the pasture area that's above that and make it green zones instead of those dry zones that every time somebody lights a match, whoop, there goes the big brush fire. You know, if there's no fuel to fuel the fire, then there's no opportunity for fire. And if you look at Kihei right now, after all the big rains and some of the flooding you've had, you're green, your mountain is super green. And that's really wonderful. But with all of that being said, these plans have been in the works. We've been working on them during the pandemic. Now we can make them come to fruition. And let me add this. We have about somewhere between 45 and possibly as much as $80 million in infrastructure money that's coming to us through the ARP, the American Rescue Act, right? And these monies will be able to utilize in some of the areas I just said. Also upcountry, improving the upcountry water system, especially the north where you hit Poli and all that back area along the upper Omopio area coming across. We want to make major improvements. So we've already put in $5 million to start design and what you call that, design and start building, design and to build. But we know we're going to take more like about 25 million to get it completed. So some of that money will be going that way. Some of that money will go to what we call the expansion of the Lahaina system. Some of that money will go to Kihei. So I'm putting in, we've already kind of penciled in different amounts that once we get the money, we'll know exactly what we can give, and then make sure that whatever the difference is, we can bond it and build it. So our plan is, our financial situation in Maui County has been very strong. We've had AA ratings, even during the pandemic, they kept us AA. Many counties were devastated by the bond ratings during the pandemic. We were not. But this is because we've been very resilient and we showed good fiscal prudence. I'll say this, I'm the only mayor that has made 4 budgets, and every one of my budgets were expanded by the county council. That never happened to me in 10 years in the county council. We always cut the mayor's budget, but this council has always expanded. Sometimes with good intentions, sometimes not knowing what was really necessary. But what it's given us is an opportunity to move money around when we needed to and continue doing all of these developments of infrastructure. That's the important. Build it and they can come. Build it to their property. And like you said, they don't have to spend all this money with infrastructure to the property. Now they take it from their property line and they build out. And that can save the consumer millions of dollars, which will equate to cheaper prices for rentals and cheaper prices for housing, because we're going to be monitoring that right through.
To change topics.
Yes.
We always run into this every 4 or 5 years. We see things pop up in the news and people say, oh, there it is again, the government, corruption. We read about, different things happening. Do you have any ideas or thoughts to say, hey, we're going to implement some of these new internal things to make sure the checks and balances are there with our county employees? You read about, this guy got the bid because he was given $1 million. It's not falling on your administration. It's just that we see these things pop up 4 or 5 years and people start to lose faith. Oh, that's the county, that's the way they operate. Is there any new checks and balances you're going to be working on, or internal things?
Well, there's areas that we need to improve on checks and balances. With automation, you can check things a lot more quickly than you did in the old days with pencil and paper, right? We've changed our policies many times with our P cards and other areas where people can utilize monies from the county. We have a invoice system or a procurement system that the state government has put together that many times the county follows. And I want to make some improvements in making some tighter restrictions on that. And we are right now in the process, since all of what has come to light with this incident with the Department of Environmental Management and the waste treatment plant. We're looking now at the auditor is making a complete study. We've had all of our invoices and all of the monies that was paid to H2O. We've verified to make sure it was either parts or services, and his contract was cut about a year and a half ago. So we haven't done business with him since. And when all of this first hit the fan, we took some appropriate actions to make sure that we, are not going to be caught again. But let me say it in this manner. If there's a way, somebody will find it. And I'll say it that way. It happens in the private sector, not just the public sector. You hear about it all the time. Nonprofits, right? You hear about it. It's unfortunate that sometimes people lose their perspective of why they're there, who they're serving, and why they're serving. And that's what I think that's what I call our local values. We can't lose that. We have to respect the fact that the money you put into the coffer is there for a purpose and not for some devious or some outside purpose to make a profit. I can say this, all my years I've served, I've never touched or taken anything that wasn't rightfully due to me. And I'll say it in that manner. But like everything else, others have not followed that premise, and that's been a sad chronology here in Maui County and the state of Hawaii. But corruption is not just in the public sector. It's widespread in the private sector. And you hear it every so often, and even in nonprofits. And the nonprofits have particularly hurt me because they're serving a really needy group, or a group that really has so many challenges, and getting money to help them is so difficult, and then you steal from them or you take money from them. That's a sad chronology. But I say we are working on different issues, and I thank you for that question. And I've instructed my departments, and we're doing an audit of not only the Department of Environmental Management, but other departments. And our Office of the Auditor, he's always open, and I've always recommended if he feels like we need or council needs any like planning now, they're investigating planning right now. I believe we'll be vindicated. I don't think there's anything anybody has done wrong. Illegally, I should say. Maybe they've done things wrong, but not illegally. But we'll see. Investigations do two things. Audits do, first, finds wrongdoing, but secondly, gives you reason to make improvements. And that's what I always take an auditor, is a methodology to make improvements. So whatever the auditors come up with the different investigations, I'll be more than happy to implement in my next term.
Thank you.
So I've seen you a lot out, obviously I saw you yesterday at the ARIA Partners, and we were, of course, discussing affordable housing, a common theme of today's discussion, and, yesterday's presentation, which was very fascinating. And thank you so much for coming and hearing everybody's concerns as well as possible solutions to it. With that being said, how do you, two things, how do you find yourself engaging with the public? Because one of the things that I love to hear is from one of the speakers is they called you on your cell phone and they were like, I got a hold of him. I was talking to him, and I'm either talking to him or his wife. They're just, very accessible. So A, how do you connect with your community? And B, what do you think the first 180 days is going to look like once you are voted back in as mayor?
My wife and I and our family have always been, I call public people. We're out there, whether it was the county fair, whether it was PTA president, whatever. And being accessible to people, I try my best. Now, there'll be people that tell you I didn't call them back, I didn't reach them, and let me be honest, at times I miss calls, I miss things. I'm human. And as many calls as I get in a single day, I'll be honest with you. I've made some mistakes and missed some callbacks. Sometimes I call somebody 3 days later, but they understand, and so I'm happy with that. So communication with the community. I've always said the best way to find out about your community is walk in your supermarket, go to church, walk into some school event or sporting event, and you hear all the things you need to hear about your community, because these people are everyday people who'll tell you what's really happening out there. They don't have agendas, they just have concerns. And so that's what I like doing. Although your meetings, and I say many of the meetings I attend, people have really wonderful ideas and concerns, and they're not agendized, but they are, and you've seen it, people who have their personal agendas and that's all they talk about, right? That's the first thing I think is important, listening to people. I've always tried to listen to people. Did I agree with them? No, but I listened. And like you heard there, and you'll hear other places, people appreciated that. Sometimes, to be honest with you, people just need a year to vet in. Once they got through with that, it's like, oh yeah, we can solve this now. Sometimes they come up with their own solutions as they grumble to you. So it's really wonderful to let them do what they need to do, say what they need, so long as they do it respectfully. I do not like vulgarity, and I don't like to be threatened. Once you get there, I don't want to talk no more. Thank you very much. Good evening, and I leave. And when you were there yesterday, when I talked about our different solutions and different approaches that we're taking right now, one of the biggest things is this community has to be a community. All of our areas, whether it's South Maui, West Maui, Hana, Upcountry, Central Maui, I don't care where you live, Molokai and Lanai inclusive, when something goes wrong, it affects somebody else. If something in West Maui goes wrong, it affects Kahului. If something happens upcountry, it affects Wailuku. We're not separate communities. When there's flooding happens upcountry, up in Keokeo and Kula. but it comes down to Kihei and causes devastation in Kihei. So we're interconnectable, not only with disasters, but in business, commerce, community, churches, everything. So my approach is one that we should be looking always to be inclusive of everybody, not segregate and say, oh, my community needs this. I don't care about your community. We all have same goals, good quality lifestyles. We need clean water, we need clean air, we need food. And our agricultural industry right here in Maui County, I hope in the next 5 years becomes exemplary. What we can do and raise maybe 30, 40, 50% of all the products we need to eat and consume right here. My wife and I just got through doing a series with breakfast, all 100% Maui grown, Maui food
Nice.
for breakfasts. And we just got through with our lunch and dinner series. And it's 100% locally grown products, not only here in Maui, but in the state of Hawaii. No outside products. And it's been well received. And that's what I want to encourage people. You know, all of what you're saying really comes to this. If we support each other, buy local, shop local, consume local, we will help each other survive and even get to the point of thriving as an internal economy within the county of Maui. The hospitality industry, wellness, all of that will add jobs, will add opportunities, and will improve our healthcare system right here in the county of Maui. These are all things that we all need to work on, not just West Maui, not just South Maui, but the entire county of Maui. And that's what I think I bring to the table. And the first 180 days, we'll be able to produce 1,000 to 1,200 units completed. Complete, the 742 that's being built right now. Hopefully in the first 182 days, that group is done and we get others that are started and ready to be completed in the very near future. Mm-hmm. That's what I see in Maui County. I see our economy changing with technology. Training our workforce is also very important. And that's what I want to deal with, the trades. The trades right now are scrambling to get enough workers. They can't find plumbers. They can't find carpenters. They can't find bricklayers. We've been so academia driven that go to college, become a doctor or an engineer or a sales rep or whatever, that we forgot that trades were important. And so now the University of Hawaii, Maui College, and the different trades are now starting apprentice programs, classroom, then right into apprentice programs, so that we can get these people. We're short of CDL drivers these days. Why? Because we never promoted driving as a CDL driver, as a livable wage. Mm-hmm. Right now, you make $30, $35 an hour, starting as a CDL driver. Buses and big rigs and trucks and deliveries. Amazon, one of the reasons they've closed some of their centers, they don't have enough employees. So, we know what's happening right now here in Maui County, and that's reflective in the state and the nation. And so I really believe we're at a cuff right now where we are turning the corner and we have opportunities. Are there the gray clouds in the horizon? Yes. Inflation, the war in Ukraine, and other issues are still out there. They're not going to go away. And this COVID-19 hasn't disappeared. It's just been controlled. So we're now into an endemic, not a pandemic, but we cannot close our eyes. You need to get your flu shots. You've been hearing that lately on TV and radio spots, because we expect a very severe flu season. We haven't heard of flu the last few years because why? COVID-19, right? No flu. Yeah. But flu has been around, but we haven't had serious because why? Good hygiene, good discipline, physical distancing. We're teaching ourselves to be more healthy. So I think the sun is rising and it's becoming much brighter for Maui County. And I'm excited that the next term I can really hone in and finish up many of these projects that we started, like the Wailuku apartments of 324. They can be done. A lot of the Kiyavi apartment will be done. All of these will be done in the next 18 to 20 months. So we will have places for people to rent affordably and not have to move to the mainland.
Nice. Well, my last question is just, talking about COVID, how do you feel? I know your first term, half of it was affected by the pandemic. What was the biggest learning thing you learned for Maui County, that you learned personally or as the mayor during the COVID times?
One of the things that I think really rises to the top in that area is our resiliency. As a community, we came together. Our farmers wanted to plow on the crops. I went to them and said, we'll buy everything you can sell us. And we turned around and started to feed people who were unemployed. One day had a job, the next day had no job. And you all know what the problem with unemployment was when it first started. It was overwhelmed. This wasn't just a state, county. This was a nationwide problem, but we couldn't control certain things, but what I could control, we got done. We made sure food boxes were made, and we were distributing them as of April of 2020. We worked hard to work with the community to keep them safe. All the mandates that were put up wasn't things I wanted to do, but we had to do because we didn't know what COVID-19 was all about. The first 12 months, I call it OJT, on the job training. We were going through different phases and different events that changed how we thought. I'll give you an example. Imagine Friday afternoon, 4:45, I get a call from a assisted living care place, facility. And they tell me, Mayor, I have me and one other employee to take care of 75 assisted care patients.
Wow.
Yes, wow. That's just not the word I use. I use some other choice words, but I won't use it here. And what I did is I said, any employees? She said, no, because our employees are either sick or they have family members are sick. They don't want to come in. They're scared. So I said, have you called other facilities like Halimaolo, Halimakua, and others? Yes, we have. No availability. So I said, okay, let me call you back in 45 minutes. Let me see what I can do. So I got on the phone. I called Halimakua, Halimaolo, and others. They had no available staff. Then I looked around the hospital. I called the hospital, asked if they had staff that we could utilize. They said, no, we don't. Luckily, because we've had a great working relationship with not only our local partners, our state agencies, and federal agencies, I called National Guard, General Ken Hara. I said, General, I'm in desperate need. I need 5 to 7 people to take care of 75 elderly assisted patients in a healthcare facility. He said, well, let me check into it, Mayor. I'll get back to you in 20 minutes. In 15 minutes, he called me back. He says, I've got 5 medically certified personnel, National Guard. I'll send over by 6:30. Will that work? I said, well, it better work, because that's all that we got right now. And he did. And
it's
for
amazing.
The next,
right now with the current,
7 to 5 personnel every day until the facility got their workforce together and could take over. But that's the kind of instantaneous decisions and instantaneous relationships that we formed during this pandemic and even before the pandemic. And that's what makes me maybe different than my opponent, is because I have these great working relationships with various agencies. And when I call upon for help, they know I need help, and they've always come through. But most importantly, Maui County is resilient. We found help and we got it done. But that's all across the pandemic. We've had people helping us, churches and nonprofits and businesses who donated hundreds of pounds of food. We gave away 8 million pounds of food between 2020 and middle of 2021. And I'm proud to say, I really don't think many people, if anybody, was out there starving at that time.
Yeah. And while having those historical connections to everybody and that experience is going to definitely go a long way, because a lot of the future often looks like much of the past. And right now, of course, the next potential concern is monkeypox coming up. I was actually surprised that there's 5 people at the hospital right now in the ICU with it. Now, fortunately, it's not as transmissible and a lot more noticeable compared to COVID-19. But nonetheless, having that kind of history is definitely going to go a long way to help you prepare for, upcoming potential problems as climate change affects it all.
Absolutely. And, we keep tabs. I keep close communication with our medical people, not only at the hospital, but in other segments of our community. Dr. Pang was a great asset. Yes, I know some people sometimes don't understand how he approaches things, but the guy has a real keen sense of what's going on in our community, and we keep in contact. And so overall, I feel very comfortable that we're much more prepared today to take on any kind of epidemic that we were 2.5 years ago. How's that sound?
Well, we appreciate it, and thank you for having this conversation. I know we don't want to take up too much of your time. Clint will close us out, but how do people follow your campaign or get a hold of you or your campaign? What are the websites or social media that they can look for?
Well, our campaign webpage is victorinoformayor.com, and we also have a headquarters here in Maui at 1922 Lower Main Street. And if you want to send us an email, you can send an email at mikevictorino808@gmail.com. So there's many ways you can communicate with us. We welcome any help. We welcome any advice. Although as mayor, I do get a lot of mail through the mayor's office and a lot of emails because they send it directly to me. So remember now, I'm wearing two hats, candidate Victorino and mayor Victorino. But both of them intertwined because I serve the people of Maui County. But like I mentioned to you earlier, I work very hard to keep it separate so that there's no kind of implications that I'm taking advantage of my position. So I'm proud to say we've done a good job, and we try to continue to remember Mayor Victorino or candidate Victorino always has to stay separate. Another one is, and then the other email site is victorinoformayor@gmail.com. So I've given you 4 options, and if that doesn't help you, I'm sorry.
Hey, what's your cell phone? No, I'm just kidding.
I appreciate your time. I appreciate you asking me these questions. I hope people understand that we've gone through such an arduous time, such uncertain things in our life that we've never had, unprecedented in our history. But we've come out Maui Nui strong, and I'm really proud of this community. And I know if I give it another 4 years, we can make this community even more Noko'oi, Maui Noko'oi. God bless you, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Mahalo, aloha, and a hui ho.
Well, Clint.
Thank you so much, Byron Yap, for always helping co-host these shows. I couldn't do it without you and organizing it. And again, thank you, Mayor Michael Victorino, for coming on and joining us today. You can listen to this and all the shows at MauiRealEstateRadio.com. I'm Clint Hansen with Maui Luxury Real Estate, and you're listening to 1110 AM, 96.7, and our friends on the west side, 96.5 FM on the KAOI radio group. Aloha.